Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our next webcast that we're bringing you as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series from Travel Weekly. And I'm delighted to be joined today. This is a new setup. We normally only have 4 people, but I've got five of us here today. So we've got Stuart Milan from Riviera, Paul Hardwick from Olsen Travel, Iain Powell from Saga, and Debbie Marshall from Silver Travel Advisor. So welcome all of you. I've brought you together. Debbie, I'm going to start with you. You've written us a column which we've published in Travel Weekly, but it was on the back of all the media coverage, wasn't it, at the weekend? I think you described it a media frenzy because there was a lot of coverage from tour operators, particularly escorted touring companies, coach companies, saying they've seen a big rise or a spike in bookings from the over 50s on the back of the vaccination rollout. So perhaps you could just sort of cover that off for us. I know lots of people were spoken to and quoted in the press, but is this a real spike? Are we definitely seeing a surge in demand?
Yes, is the short answer. I was really excited last week when the first story came in from the BBC. And if the over 50s ever proclaim themselves to be the forgotten generation and the ones that the media always ignore, that was certainly not the case over the last few days. I think just about every paper picked it up, TV channels, radio. The over 50s were truly trending and have been for the last few days. It basically started with a story from National Express Coach Holidays claiming, I think it was 185% growth year-on-year bookings in the last 2 weeks. But it wasn't just, as some people said, a bit of PR puff. A lot of other operators immediately contributed their own booking figures, and it was from upmarket operators such as Scott Dunn, through people like Sunville, even TUI, who said it wasn't really their market at all, but suddenly all the over 50s were booking with them. Of course, Saga as well came in with a very strong promotion over the weekend, and suddenly all the weekend papers, I mean, the Sunday Times travel section, the whole front cover, there wasn't even a photo of it, of anything, a beach, nothing. It just said over 50s, leading the charge, and what they called revenge tourism, of kind of getting their own back. They've lost a year and they want to get out there and travel. And I do think now with it's 4 million people vaccinated, that is really what is driving it, that there's a confidence that's come back and people are saying, I've got my vaccine, and now I want to pack my bags and go somewhere, anywhere. And it's great to see, and our own research is backing that up.
All right, well, let's come back to your research in a minute, Debbie. I want to do that, but you mentioned all these tour operators that were quoted. We've got 2 on here, so let's ask Stuart and Iain what they're seeing, and also, the story was just this week, and yet obviously we heard the vaccine news before Christmas. So why now? What has been the thing that has caused this spike and this sort of coverage this weekend? So let's start with you, Stu.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we've actually seen just constant week-on-week growth since December, really. So once the initial vaccine news got out, I think really we've seen a significant uptake in Jan, especially over the last 7 years. And our demographic slightly older than just 50, so we've actually seen the real uptick from 65 plus. And those guys in the last 7 days have been the ones to really kind of push through and confirm their bookings. Now, I mean, it is in line with, essentially the communications from the government saying, right, we're going to start rolling out the vaccinations for those that are 70 plus. So there's got to be a correlation between the vaccine news, the vaccine rollout, and some bookings. Obviously, where it does get blurred is obviously everyone starts to up their marketing material in January as well, but hopefully that's just spurring it along with some external positive news as well. So it's definitely in effect, the vaccine rollout, and essentially us as operators, I'm sure Iain will say, it's for us to take advantage and make sure we're getting the marketing material out to the relevant people now to maximise the opportunity.
Okay, well, let's definitely bring Iain in, because hot off the press today, we're recording this on Wednesday, and this morning you made the announcement about your passengers, both on your holidays and your cruises, requiring a full vaccination, I guess a certificate, something to show they've been fully vaccinated before they travel, and that's got to be 14 days before they depart. So just tell us about that, because you've obviously jumped straight on this vaccination news, and you obviously feel that's a key thing that will make people confident to travel.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess similar to as Stuart's just said, demand generally in our age group particularly has been improving over the last few weeks. So December it was getting better week on week. January it's continued to do that, and this is something we've been talking about internally for a little while. And obviously today I've got to the point of the announcement where we, our customers tell us that I guess reassurance around safety is of the utmost importance to them. And we talked to a large proportion of customers, and over 95% of them told us that through us making vaccines mandatory, that would be a policy they would agree with, and that would make them comfortable to travel. So this is really about listening to our customers, doing what we think is right for our customers, and bringing in a policy that they tell us that they agree with. Yeah, so we're very pleased that we've got to this point today. We feel hugely positive about the impact it's going to have on new bookings. Even just this morning, so far it's been an incredibly busy day since the announcement, and overwhelmingly positive feedback from both guests and travel agents. So just to be clear for us, Iain, it talks about
being fully vaccinated. So they have to have both doses, and
correct.
Both those doses must have come 14 days before someone departs.
That's correct. Yes. So,
and obviously you're starting your operations at the moment. I know everyone doesn't know, but you're slating that you're going to start them, I think May, and then June for your cruise ships and May for your holidays. So, obviously, are you confident that people who may have had their first dose some over 80s are still reporting they haven't even had a letter about their first one yet. So there might be some people with forward bookings with you that may not make that deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. So to confirm, it is, as you say, you have to have 2 doses to be fully vaccinated, and you need to have that second dose no later than 14 days prior to travelling, whether it be a holiday or a cruise with us. Resumption of service dates have been pushed back today along with this announcement. That's to allow those 2 vaccines to take place, because there is a lag time between some of them. I think up to 12 weeks between the 2 doses. So that's why we've pushed back service. So for holidays, we're now back to May. Spirit of Adventure will operate in May, and the Spirit of Discovery has been pushed back to June. And yeah, absolutely, we're confident that timeline fits in with the government's vaccination program in terms of the age of our customers and the groups that they work through, in the order of, I guess, the top 4 groups being a lot of our customers, the order of categorization that they go through. So absolutely confident that the timeline works. I think we're seeing a lot more positive sort of talk, I guess, now in the media around the government's vaccination timeline, and then being largely on track with that. So we have to keep an eye on how that goes, and we'll know when we get to mid-February. They've kind of put a line in the sand, obviously, around the number of vaccinations that we want to have delivered by then. So we've got to obviously keep an eye on that. But absolutely,
I think the last, sorry to interrupt, I think the last thing that came out of Whitehall was that all 32 million over 50s could have received their first dose by late March. But I guess, as you're pointing out, you need them to have had the second dose as well. So we just obviously need to make sure that.
Absolutely, but we also have to bear in mind where the largest proportion of our customers sit in, what age group they sit in.
Yeah, which is like Stuart, it's much older. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, we are an over 50 specialist, as we know, but the majority of our customers do sit in a slightly older age group than that.
Yeah.
But look, the government, we're confident that the government timeline lines up with what we've now, I guess, announced today. And if anything, actually, we're hopeful that it'll even speed up, as vaccine becomes more readily available, etc., and infrastructure around delivering the vaccine improves, which from what I can see, it seems to be doing every day. So yeah, we're confident in the timeline.
All right, we'll probably come back and talk more about it in a second, but let's bring Paul in, because you're right on the front line. You've got lots of customers, and I know in your area that you serve, you do obviously have quite a lot of customers in that sort of mature bracket. What's been the sort of the view from your customer base, Paul? Has the vaccination rollout sort of made them more confident? Have you seen them more interested in talking about holidays?
Yeah, definitely agree with Stuart and Iain. We are seeing an upturn with regards to inquiries. We're also getting, amazingly, the feedback that I've been getting from the shops themselves, and also from our home workers, is that customers are actually ringing us up to say they've had that letter, that the vaccine's on its way, and we can now start thinking about travel again. And I think that's really waking them up. What we're also seeing is, as you say, is that revenge sort of tourism, that they feel like they've missed out on a whole year, and they don't just want to do one thing, they don't just want to do 2 things, they want to do lots now. They feel like they've lost a year of planning and traveling, and we're really seeing that in large numbers with regards to people speaking to us. Not all of them are quite ready to book yet. They want to actually have that vaccine, they want to see what it is. With the Saga news today, I think having some positive news of what's going to happen is going to really help with regards to that consumer confidence. So they know this is what it's going to look like, this is what it's going to be like. And then that will flow through with regards to more bookings. Demographically, most of our customers are over 50, to be totally honest. And all the way through this, it's been one of the things that we've been really holding on to, that hope is that our customers will hopefully come out of this quicker than maybe the younger generation, who are probably waiting a little bit longer before they get that confidence ready to book for the summer.
And just as Iain said there, that he did the research first, his company did the research, and obviously it's something that customers wanted. They felt they'd be more confident if they had this vaccination requirement. Do you think that will make your customers, like, I don't know if other people will follow Saga, but you can imagine they might, and require a vaccination, and perhaps we'll come on and ask Stuart what his plans are. But do you think that would help your customers, Paul?
I really do. I do, yeah. I think what they really want is just some assurance of what is going to happen, what it's going to be like, what do we need, how is it going to be safe. The pent-up demand out there is unbelievable at the moment. From everything we hear from customers, is they're desperate to book, but they just want, one, they want the vaccine, and two, then they want to know that what they book will happen. Because I think that's probably the biggest fear when we're talking to customers at the moment, is they don't want to book again for something to be changed or cancelled. And that's what they're really holding out for, is just that confidence that what they are going to book will actually go in 2021.
Yeah, that certainty. All right. Well, you mentioned there about this pent-up demand and people, wanting to talk about lots of big things. And Debbie, I know you said that you've got some members of Silver Travel Advisor who've got 5 holidays already booked up until 2023 because they're so desperate to make up for this lost time. And I'm sure that feeds into your research. Tell us about the research that you have conducted. I know it's ahead of your announcement, your report, so I know you can't give us everything, but just tell us a little bit about it.
So we did 3 surveys last year, one in April, one in August, and another in November. And then we've got another survey which is just closing at the moment. And from the most recent survey, we've asked different questions. One in particular, what percentage of people are actually going to have the vaccine, because you are certainly finding in some age groups that there's a reluctance, but actually 95% of respondents want to have the vaccine. And over 75% are saying that with the vaccine, that's going to give them the confidence to travel within 6 months, or to book travel within 6 months. So it's really, really, strong figures, huge lift. And what we're seeing as well is a kind of evolution. Back in the summer, we had kind of different categories of travellers, and we had the kind of what we call the garden gators, the ones who really felt if they so much as put their nose through the front door, they'd catch the virus, and that would be the end of them. And there is definitely a growing confidence now. They're going to get out of the garden gate and become, what we call the belt and braces, which are, they want every box ticked. They want to know where they're going is COVID secure. They want to know the medical facilities are good. Their insurance has got to be in place. All the things that, Saga and others are offering to give them security. But, and then at the sort of top end, we've got the Avengers, which is the ones who just, not that they don't care, but they are now so desperate to get out. And we're seeing people kind of move up through the grades. There'll always be the ones who are cautious and reluctant, and some of the ones who shielded because of really serious medical concerns. It's not going to change that. I don't want in any way to sort of trivialize, the seriousness for some people of traveling again, but for the ones who can and are able to, as just to echo what Paul and everybody's just said, the demand is huge.
Okay, all right. So Stuart, let's ask you. I mean, Saga's obviously made this announcement today. Is that something that Riviera and you think other operators will now have to follow, because it will be something that customers look for that absolute reassurance?
I mean, potentially. I mean, obviously we've seen Saga's move this morning, and it's a great news story to push and try and create a little bit of confidence. So hopefully that we really appreciate the efforts of getting the sector moving again and getting people out. I think for now, in terms of our stance, Riviera's stance, is that we'd still insist that every guest had a test before coming on board a ship. And the only reason we're going along that route is because we just still haven't got that data from the government or whatever source we can around the transmission of COVID from a vaccinated customer, as it were. So until that becomes clearer, we'll probably stick with our stance of insisting of a negative result prior to anyone going on holiday. I think, to the point Paul alluded, there are so many other external factors that are still influencing on whether that holiday could go ahead as well. Essentially, destinations are going to be one of the driving factors to as if we could actually operate or not. We've got to stick by their rules and guidelines. So again, it might be that certain countries ask for vaccinations, which then of course we'd have to implement a vaccination essentially certificate procedure for that. And it's just hard to tell. I think it's too early to tell right now whether we just implement a full vaccination requirement. Testing at the moment for us is the way forward. But as with everything in travel, we're constantly kind of reviewing
changes
the process.
Changes all the time. I mean, actually, I did an interview just last night actually with the head of Clear in Washington, globally, and it was her view actually that vaccinations, while brilliant, it's not a silver bullet, was her exact quote. And certainly for the cruise industry, and they need it to be hand in hand with lots of other measures, and that is the case with you still, Iain, isn't it? I know you're requiring that, but you've still got all the protocols in place and all the testing on departure and stuff. Is that right? You've still got lots of measures as well.
Absolutely, yeah. The vaccination announcement, like I say, is around giving our doing what we think is right for our customers and giving them that reassurance. It doesn't replace all of the other COVID protocols that we've put in place, both for holidays and cruises. So for cruises, for example, testing at the terminal will still take place. All of the onboard, adaptations to the ship that we've made to make it safer and COVID secure, all of that stuff still exists. So I agree. It's not. This is not about it being the silver bullet. And you're right. I think when we turned the year, perhaps some people looked at the vaccination as the silver bullet that was going to, just turn the corner and everything was going to be okay again. We know that for a period of time, there will be a requirement for us to still operate in a COVID secure way. It's just the vaccination for us offers, an additional level of reassurance for guests.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. And Paul, you mentioned there that, one of the concerns is like the certainty of a holiday going ahead. And when I last spoke to Debbie, one of the other concerns was, could they get insurance? I mean, there are lots of things that worry people, and that they want to be sure about before they book a holiday. What are the things that really trouble your customers? And does that vary by destination or by holiday type? And are they sort of then more likely to lean towards a particular type of holiday, do you think, when they do eventually book?
I think one of the biggest concerns we've seen is those that were impacted last year, who then rebooked either for later last year or this year, who are now having their holiday changed either for the second or the third or the fourth time. And as much as we had a good record of rebooks initially, once you've changed it 2 or 3 times, we did get to a stage where customers were like, actually now we don't really want to book something else because we keep leading ourselves into thinking that we're going to go ahead, and then it gets squashed again and we move back forward. So we got to a stage at the end of last year where we were seeing a lot more people taking refunds than we had throughout the rest of the year, which was an issue on where we wanted to start with. I suppose that the issues now sit, I suppose, differently with regards to destinations and also type with regards to, we're not seeing anything really for the first half of this year. Most of the bookings are for 2022 at the moment. And then we've got a fair amount for sort of the second half of 2021 at the moment, but there isn't really any confidence that we're seeing in the market for spring into early summer at the moment. Now, I'd hope in a few weeks' time, if the vaccine's rolling out faster and the confidence is picking up, that will be the key part that will grow quite quickly. Because I was talking to quite a few of our managers this morning. We had a little group call, and one of the things that they're focusing on in February is getting really back to the phones and ringing up customers who had cancelled holidays last year, who haven't got anything booked, and actually give them a ring. How are you? What's happening? Are you thinking about something this year? Are you thinking about something for next year? We've tried to do a marketing piece to not demand that people book now, but actually now is a good time to be thinking about it, because we all need something to look forward to, and what can we do when we come out of that. But I think hopefully, as you say, more operators come out with this is what's going to happen, and ultimately when hopefully the government give us that guidance with regards to how borders are going to reopen up, what travel is going to look like, and where those fundamental key pillars are with regards to what operators and airlines and cruise ships have to deliver to operate once they get back going again.
Yeah, so you want them to make the bookings now, of course, but I've spoken to lots of agents that have said they actually don't really want people to book you know, short term, because they're just nervous about exactly what you're saying, that they're going to be cancelling it and rebooking it and having all that hassle again. I know some people are not even, you know, looking to book things until the second half of the year. So, I mean, is that what you're advising your agents, or are you taking those bookings if people want to travel? Are you encouraging them to, or?
We are taking them. We did a booking yesterday that was actually flying to America tomorrow, albeit they originally come from America, so it was going home. But the amount of information that I read through the notes this morning on the booking, and the amount of information that the consultant had gone through with regards to entry restrictions into America, what they might have to do when they get there, when they come back, what they might have to do here. And there is a huge fear, I think, from agents with regards to making sure they give all of that right information so that customers know exactly what they might have. I had another phone call from one of the shops yesterday, and somebody was looking to book a package holiday for the middle of March. And they were basically saying, like you said, should we take this booking at the moment? When will it go ahead? It's quite unlikely at the moment. But if the customer wants to go ahead, and if we've given them the guidance with regards to this is what we think at the moment, this is what's happening. Yes, it's more administration for us, but ultimately we can't refuse the booking. The customer hopes it's going to go ahead. If it doesn't, then you know we've got options to change it or refund it. It's just then looking at. As far as promotion goes, though, we're not really promoting anything before June. We're trying to look at the longer sales, which we're more confident will happen. But also, that's where we're seeing with regards to customer demand at the moment.
The demand, yeah, it's such a hard balance, isn't it? But I guess the tour operators have done an awful lot to be more flexible, so that they do make it easy if you do have to move bookings. Debbie, what are you seeing in terms? I know you talk about the demand is definitely up, but for where, what kind of trips, and when? You know, is it, as Paul says, second half of this year and into next year and beyond, or what are you seeing?
I absolutely echo what Paul's just said, actually, largely for 2022 and even 2023 for some of the big trips where people feel a lot more confident. In terms of where, over 30% saying UK for the next trip. But that said, you know, we're 40% saying Europe and just under 20% saying long haul. So a reasonable split. It's not all UK, but you would expect, you know, quite a lot of it to be. And
do you have comparative data? What would they have said about the UK previously? Did you survey them? You know what I mean? We know how that.
Yeah, I'll make sure that that's part of our report.
Sorry.
February, to which you're all invited. I don't have that to hand, but it's a good question. We'll certainly look and see if that's evolved. I would have expected that it would have done because of all the changes, and it's natural, especially if you're feeling cautious about things like medical facilities and the like, you know, to start somewhere that feels safer and then gradually go out. And it's great to see so many travel companies that have responded over the last few months with UK programs and being really innovative in terms of what they're offering.
Stuart, you introduced some new UK tours quite recently, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. So we introduced a few at the back end of last year. We've just expanded that, well, essentially doubled the size of that program, just because of the demand that we've seen. You know, so they're a big percentage of our, say, last 7 days worth of bookings, and there are actually elements of our UK tour. So our Scottish tour, for example, is, you know, virtually sold out. There's the only odd space left, so it's been a real bonus for us.
And would this be people that would normally travel with you to far-flung places that are more nervous, or are they just adding one in because they want to get away, and then they'll still do their kind of extra, you know, more exotic one later? Or what do you think? Can you drill down?
It's probably hard to tell right now. I think those that are going on the tours are existing customers, so they're obviously, we've never offered UK before, so they are ones that would normally go further afield. Obviously, our hope would be that it's as soon as everything opens up a little bit more, then it's a second trip of the year rather than the only trip of the year. But I think it just shows the desire people have to travel, or customers want to travel, that they're just, you know, essentially some of them are taking a safer option of doing it within the UK. Hopefully, as soon as sentiment starts to grow over the coming month with the continued rollout of vaccine, then they'll start to venture further afield as well.
Yeah, and listening to that, Iain, and with your own research, have you adapted itineraries across your programs, you know, to maybe do more closer to home and less of the exotic? I mean, obviously you can move your ships where you want them to, but you've got lots of itineraries scheduled in, so which people are booked on. So what will you do?
Yeah, well, and a lot of land holidays, obviously, you know, full land program. That so I guess on the UK front, firstly, yes, we expanded the program a little bit, and it's doing very well, as you would expect, but it's still, I couldn't sit here and say it makes up a large proportion holidays business, because actually, I guess contrary a little bit to what we've been talking about, so 2022, I'm in agreement, doing very, very well. We were last couple of weeks we've been 90% up on 2022, which is showing on some decent numbers, which is showing the demand coming through. But it's far-flung destinations. It's Africa doing exceptionally well. We've launched a great migration tour, which is now one of our best sellers. So there's some. So I don't think, even back end of 21, we are seeing people quite willing to go long haul and to venture out a little bit further afield. In terms of our cruise, actually we're seeing 21 perform exceptionally well, surprisingly so, because a lot of people are saying obviously.
And is that people who have used their future cruise credits or rebook? Is a lot of it that, or are you getting new bookings as well?
A bit of both. Some of it is helped by amendments from cancelled cruises, but bear in mind we've only just announced the further suspension today. The numbers we're looking at the last couple of weeks have not been helped by amendments. They are genuine new bookings, because we haven't, thankfully, since December been amending anybody, but obviously we start that program again now. But the later months of 2021 have been performing exceptionally well. Christmas across the board, not just cruise, UK holidays, all sorts of European holidays. Christmas of 21 is performing exceptionally well. So I think that, I agree, of course, as everyone said, spring's tough, and now that we push out to May and June, we probably get rid of a month or two that's been really difficult. April's difficult. I think March, April's difficult for everybody. But no, we're actually quite positive about 21. And admittedly, in the last week, for example, through the trade, we saw 70% of our cruise revenue, new revenue, come through for 21. So
and that was through the trade. Do you know what the reason I'm glad you mentioned that, because your CEO, we quoted him last week, he was saying sales to agencies are down year on year. I mean, as you would expect, but he said the trade are still selling for us, but with shop shuts, we have to be realistic. But of course, even though, I'll come to Paul, and I'm sure he's been working, even though their shops are shut, they've still been, working around the clock and trying to get bookings in. So what have you seen from the trade? Are you saying that you're seeing that they are still delivering good business, even if they can't open doors?
I think there's a couple of things in there. I think the statement we have to be realistic is around the fact that we are in different times. We can't look at a year on year and have the same expectations. If shops are shut, and for retail-based travel agencies, there is going to be no footfall. So obviously they're exceptionally good at adapting, as Paul can say better than anybody. But we have to accept that there probably is going to be less demand through that channel if it's primarily a retail-based agent. So I think that's probably more so what Chris is referring to. I think in terms of our Chris is obviously CEO of the holidays business. The sort of stat I'm talking about there in the last week is our ocean cruise business. So holidays has been doing well, but it's fair to say trade makes up a smaller percentage share of our holidays business, but makes up a larger percentage share of our ocean cruise business. So I would say that delivery in the last week actually, to see ocean cruise be better year on year through the trade, is really quite pleasing, because obviously that's a position that not many of us have seen for quite a long time now. So look, ocean cruise has been exceptionally good. Holidays has been more complicated, but anyone who operates holidays to 150 destinations will testify that it's just more complex. There's a lot of moving parts. It's been impacted by various regulations in different countries, etc. So I think that's probably what Chris is referring to more so, is that his area of the business. The trade delivery, it's down year on year as we would expect, but that doesn't mean to say that we don't expect it to come back pretty soon. And
we've all had to change the way we work. Look at us now. We wouldn't normally be doing this. Paul, you mentioned there that you're getting on the phones. That's one of the things that you're prioritizing at the moment, calling customers. But are the older generation, do they like being phoned? Are they responding to email? What do you do for that sort of that more mature market that really is the most effective way of communicating and inspiring them?
I think phones is definitely one of the key areas. Our email database has never been stronger. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, we only had 40% of our customers with email addresses attached to them, and now it's over 60%, because people actually want to hear from us that way now. We can't do the mail marketing that we did. We did a survey in the middle of last year, and 75% of our customers wanted to book face-to-face. That's, for the high street agencies, that's where they were. And like Iain said, that has had a detrimental impact. When I look at our home workers, the Go Cruise and Travel guys, they're performing probably double what we're doing in the shops at the moment. And that's because that's their business. Their business is over the phone, it's email, they're very good at it, and that works really well. How we've tried to adapt in the shops this time during lockdown, because we had 17 weeks in 2020 where we weren't able to open, and we opened every week we were able to. But in January, we did our turn of year marketing piece, and we did that digitally across all of our databases. And we would normally have obviously a big focus in the shops around that. But what we've done this time is we've put huge banners in the windows with QR codes in there. So as people are out hopefully doing their daily exercise, all they've got to do is walk past. Hopefully people are getting used to it now with the NHS app and the menus in restaurants through the summer when they were doing it. And they can literally download the magazine onto their phone as they walk past. They can't come in because, you know, we are still working. The guys are, we've got, you know, somebody on the phone and on the emails of every shop every day trying to get those bookings in. But because they can't physically come in, hopefully they can still get that same content from us while we're not able to open.
Brilliant. What a great idea. Well done. And Debbie, I don't know whether your research covers this, but how has it changed the way that the older traveller likes to be talked to, likes to be communicated with during the pandemic? Have you seen any change in that?
We have, and I just love the idea of older people walking past a shop with their mobile phone and getting a QR code. I think that's brilliant. You can imagine that sort of, you know, a few years ago it would be unthinkable. And I do think, you know, old people have kind of had to get up there with the technology, whether that's through using Zoom or Teams to talk to their family, because so many people have been distanced from their children, their grandchildren. They've had to learn how to use it. So I think that's fantastic. We've actually, part of our research, we've looked at use of travel agencies, and I haven't got the final figures, but there is definitely an increase in use of travel agencies since the start, when we've done the comparative data since the start of the pandemic, and people liking the idea of you know, the comfort and giving them confidence through talking to a real person as opposed to using other channels, so going direct. So that is really good to hear. And the other thing that we've seen absolutely constantly through all the research is that perhaps unlike the millennials and Gen Z, the boomers find that their pensions and their savings are largely intact right the way through this pandemic, and still have plenty of money to spend on holidays, and that's really encouraging. I mean, they've not had much else to spend it on apart from home improvements. My daughter actually works for a bathroom company, and they're having a phenomenal business, so people are doing some DIY and sorting out their houses, but you know, they haven't had a great drain on funds, and I think that bodes so well for when they can travel again.
God, absolutely. And great news there for you, Paul. More people coming to travel agents. Have you seen that? Have you had some new customers that you've never even spoken to before that are now saying, actually, I'd like the reassurance of an agent to hold my hand through this?
Yeah, definitely. We've had so many recommendations from people who've said how we've handled it. Obviously, it's been really challenging if people are either owed money or need to cancel their holidays. But hopefully, if people feel like they're being informed and they've got somebody to go to, they can that they've got that assurances. We've also seen, so traditionally we're probably 60 plus is our normal demographic, but we've seen the next level below that start coming through to us recently as well, where normally they would have booked online or they'd have done it themselves, and actually they now feel like they want some assurance and some security with regards to their next bookings, and they want somebody that can, not being funny, it is a minefield out there. There's some brilliant stuff out there. The low deposits, the flexible terms and conditions are fantastic, but to understand all of that, to understand who's offering what, that you do need somebody that can give you good advice, and definitely for me, the travel agent's that way forward.
All right. Brilliant. All right. Well, I'm very conscious of time, so we'll leave it there, but I'm really grateful. And to quote Debbie Marshall, she said, there's a new buzzword out there of vaccine readiness. And I very much hope that that applies to a lot of your customers, and maybe people who aren't your customers but could be, and that they feel much more confident to come and book a holiday now. So for now, thank you so much for your time. To Stuart from Riviera, to Paul from Fred Olsen, to Iain from Saga, and to Debbie from Silver Travel Advisor. Thank you so much for joining us.